All right, now let us say hello to who I consider to be the number one contender in the UFC women's strawweight division. The young woman who had a fantastic win this past Saturday night in Las Vegas against Yan Xiaonan, arguably one of her best, not the best. I think we can all agree on the best, but one of her best in the UFC thus far. And I think she cemented her spot as the number one contender. For some reason, there's some reluctancy in cementing that spot and making that announcement from the UFC brass. But we'll get all those answers to all those questions from the one and only Carla Esparza, who's kind enough to join us right now. Carla, how are you?
I'm doing great. Great to talk to you, Ariel.
It is great to talk to you, and congratulations on the win. Would you agree? So when I was alluding to potentially your number one top performance, obviously the title win against Rose would be number one. I think this was number two. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100% for sure.
Did you feel like you had to do something emphatic? Did you feel like you had to make a point, get a finish, do something great in order to turn the non-believers into believers that you are in fact the number one contender?
Um, Definitely. I feel like if my mentality was going in, I think the fight with Rose made sense no matter what for the winner. But I think, if I went in and had kind of like a boring, decision victory, it would have been like, we're not. I don't think people would have been hyped up for the fight. So I think this really got people excited.
So I said leading up to this fight, obviously not knowing who was going to win, that this was the clear number one contender fight at 115, considering what you've done as of late, considering your past with Rose, considering what Yan had done as of late, her past as well. Like it just seemed like the perfect number one contender fight. Yet for some reason, they never came out and said that. And I know they don't do that all the time now, maybe to, hedge their bet, so to speak. But did that bother you that it wasn't a clear cut number one contender fight out in the public?
A little bit. In my mind, it was always, clear. It was always number one contender fight, especially since there was talks of me fighting for the title even before this fight. So, I would like to hope so and, hope that they just make it happen. But you never know with the UFC. Like, obviously, we've seen a lot of people just kind of cut the line and get in for that.
Speaking of the last few months, when it seemed like they couldn't come to a deal with Rose there for a second, you were being put out there as the potential next opponent for Zhang Weili. Did you feel like that was a true possibility, or did you think that you were kind of getting stuck in the midst of this negotiation?
I definitely thought it was a true possibility. They actually even had set up the fight to be announced. They were going to give us the fight on like 3 weeks notice, and I was like, I'm in. Like, let's
Wow.
do it. And then, they were like, well, she needs at least 5 weeks to make weight or whatever the case was. And they only had the last card. It was like in 4 weeks. And they were just waiting, like to hear. I was told from someone that they even saw the promotional flyer like backstage
Wow.
at the fights. Like they were ready to like put it out, but they never got an answer from her. And then obviously when they did, it was a no for whatever reasons.
Interesting. Were you disappointed when that didn't come to fruition?
I was a little bit disappointed, but I feel this is I'm just going to be patient and it was going to come.
By the way, when you watched the Zhang Rose fight on April 24th, were you surprised by not only the result but the way in which the fight played out? Since you obviously know both quite well.
Oh, definitely. I think that caught everyone off guard. I think a lot of people may have thought that Rose definitely could have won that fight, but just in the fashion that she won it, like so early on against such a tough striker. I mean, you saw Weili and Joanna like go at it like in a war. Like they're obviously some super high level, athlete strikers, and to see someone just go in there and just put her down like that in the first round, it's definitely a little surprising.
As you were watching that, did you think that that actually increased your chances to be next in line for a title shot? Had you defeated Yan Xiaonan, which you did because of your history with Rose?
Yeah, not only my history with Rose, but with Joanna's history with Rose. I think
Right.
Weili and Joanna had such an epic fight that having like a part two could have made sense. But I think with Rose, especially given that Joanna, had recently lost to her twice, and then obviously I have a win over Rose, I think the fight definitely just made a lot more sense.
All right. So then you go into this fight against Yan. Did you think it would play out like that? I mean, she's looked really good in the UFC and even prior to the UFC, but to have the success that you did on the ground, and to stop her. Like, did you all feel like the fight, did your whole team feel like the fight would play out like this, or were you expecting something differently?
You always go into every fight kind of expecting a war. Like, you can't be like, I'm going to win this fight in, 1 or 2 rounds and then it's going to be done. Like, I was prepared for a tough fight, especially seeing the fight with Claudia and seeing that she was able to really like neutralize her takedowns in the second and third. And, she got her timing in, she was circling, she was, really judging the distance well. I definitely thought I was going to have to work a lot harder to get in there. I was prepared to go in for, not one takedown, but 2, 3, 4, 5, to solidify that if I had to. But I'm not complaining, that's for sure.
What about the blood? How did you feel about that?
It's always nice to see blood when it's not yours.
Okay. So it didn't make things more difficult. I mean, obviously you had no problem finishing the fight, but it makes things slippery, right?
Um, not it. I don't think so. Not in this case. Like,
Okay.
I feel like I had the lock in over the legs, and it really didn't cause a problem.
Okay. I mean, the fighter kit that you were wearing was pretty gnarly after the fact. What are you going to do with that?
I don't know, honestly. Like, I mean, I've had different thoughts. I mean, I might frame it because it's such a cool like piece, but
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about maybe like selling it and donating proceeds to charity or something. I think that'd be cool. Like, I don't know. Like, let me know if anyone's interested.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who are interested in that. It's, I mean, you could see the photos on your Instagram, and I'm sure now that the blood has soaked in, it's a pretty cool visual. It's probably mostly pink at this point, I would imagine. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the bloodiest fight you've ever been a part of?
Maybe it's a close one. When I fought Nina Ansaroff like years ago in North Dakota, like she caught me with a kick to the nose, and like that was all my blood though. Like I had like a gray sports bra and I took it off and it was like pure red, after. And it was that was a really bloody fight. Like, I was bloody from head to toe, but that was all mine. So I definitely happier about this one.
Just the 11th crucifix win in UFC history, which kind of surprised me. I thought there would be more. So
Yeah.
just goes to show, how rare that is. And I mean, obviously, once you lock that in, it's very tough to get out, and you're so strong on the ground. So, like I said, it was supremely impressive. And I thought going into it, all right, done deal. Winner of this fight is the number one contender. And then you have a performance like that, and it's really a done deal. I mean, there is no room for any kind of discussion whatsoever. But then even afterwards, UFC president Dana White wasn't committing to you being number one contender. What did you make of that?
Yeah, it's like, come on, Dana,
Yeah.
like seriously, like come on. I know he was definitely impressed with the fight, from what my coach says and people say. But I just you want to hear that those words, like, you got the fight, it's your fight. So, until I hear that, I'm not gonna count my chickens before they hatch, but I'm hopeful.
Do you feel like you're in a good spot right now? I mean, have they said anything to your management, maybe since the fight on Saturday night? How are you feeling? How confident are you that your next fight is for the belt against Rose?
I mean, I'm confident, but at the same time, like, I know that it's potential. There's talks of it going to Weili too, and for me, that fight doesn't make sense. It's not like she's a like like a lawsuit, like a GSP or like a John Jones, someone who's had like these 5 to 10 like defenses, and it was a fluke. It's like I felt that Rose went in there and she fought a smart fight and she figured her out and she knocked her out. And I don't think that she's really in a place to get a rematch. And I think that she's a great fighter. She might be able to fight her way back there for sure. But as far as next fight goes, I don't think that fight makes sense.
Your poor manager, Brian Butler, represents you, Zhang Weili, Rose. I don't know how he navigates this whole thing, to be honest. How do you feel about it?
It's crazy. The one nice thing about it though is I kind of always had the inside scoop of like what was going on, because
Sure.
when they have other managers, you're just like, what is going on? It's radio silence. But at least I kind of like would be like, okay, well, this is happening. We're waiting on this, or whatever the case may be.
Um, Regarding Rose, she has certainly come a long way since your fight against her in 2014, the inaugural strawweight title fight in the finals of The Ultimate Fighter. How much do you think she has truly improved since then? Do you feel like she is a much better fighter since then? And if so, where?
Oh, definitely. It's she's always been a great fighter. Like if even back in the Invicta days, as like a young fighter, she's been a martial artist for a long time, and just seeing her always have these like crazy finishes, flying arm bars, and all these things. She's always been like a very dynamic fighter. But I feel that it's hard to say if she's improved, like too much on the ground. She's always had great jujitsu, but so many of these fights have been with other stand-up fighters, and I've kind of expected her to go to the ground, but she's just stood, stand and bang with everyone, and she's knocked people out. I mean, like I saw her drop Michelle Watterson with a head kick. She knocked out Weili. She knocked out Joanna. Like, I mean, it feels like she really came into her timing and like her process as far as the striking goes.
How about yourself? Where do you think you've improved the most since that fight, that first fight?
I feel like I've improved everywhere, even my wrestling. Like I've worked so much in so many areas, from like obviously the technical aspects, like jujitsu, striking, wrestling, but even mentally, I feel like I've improved a great deal. I've worked a lot on that. I've worked a lot on, getting stronger, like my nutrition, supplements, everything. So I feel like just all across the board, I'm just a bigger, stronger, better fighter.
I always felt that you got a bit of a raw deal in that whole situation because you came off a long season, The Ultimate Fighter, you win the belt, and then they asked you to turn around 3 months later and fight this buzzsaw who was coming up, who wasn't really all that well known at the time, Ioanni Jacek, and we know how that turned out at UFC
Yeah.
185. Has that always kind of not sat well with you, and have you always felt like you needed another crack at that title before your career was done to right that wrong?
Definitely. I think I could sit and I could be, bitter about that and whatever, but I feel like I just have to use it as motivation and, just make the best of it. And, hopefully like here I am, contending for another title. And, you can't control the past, and, I'm proud of what I've done. Like, even though my reign was short, I was, very proud to be able to be the first champion in our division. And I mean, if you see like, unfortunately, like, some of the other champions for the women's divisions, the inaugural champions have kind of not, had their belts taken for other reasons. So, at least I went out on my shield, you know what I mean? So, yeah, hopefully can come back and kind of right that wrong and get the title again.
You had that stretch in 2018 where you lost two in a row and you had the fight against Tatiana Suarez, which was tough. Did you ever lose hope? Did you lose confidence? Did you find yourself thinking that that would be an unattainable goal to get back in that title fight during that stretch?
No. You know, this division is tough, and like styles make fights, so it's like I go and I beat Rose, I finish her, and then she goes and she finishes Joanna, and then Joanna goes and fights this person, it's like, and gets finished by Weili, but then Rose goes and finishes
Right.
Weili. So it's like you never know how people are going to mix up, how you're going to match up with people, how you're going to fall in the division. So although I was definitely very frustrated and I felt that I had to go back to the drawing board and make a lot of adjustments and changes, I didn't lose hope.
Did you feel on Saturday like you got a weight lifted off your shoulders because you got your first finish since the Rose fight?
Oh my gosh, totally. Like I've been, it's been so frustrating, because when you're fighting at this high level, it's so hard because everybody is so good, and it's just so hard to go in there secure those finishes. So to like finally get one, especially at like this high level, and the timing was perfect, because this is a obviously very important fight, and I needed to make a statement. So when I needed it, it came through. So I was super stoked. But I don't think it was just luck. I was actually working on this my whole camp, since my time off from my last fight.
Yeah, no, and certainly I don't think any sane person would believe that. I think sometimes we take for granted, like, oh, are you going for the finish? Most fighters, I mean, I think there are some who have been branded as ones who just try to like ride out the decision victory, but I think most fighters want to finish to get in and get out as quickly as possible. And we take for granted just how hard it is to actually finish another human being, like get a stoppage of some kind against. And I'm sure there's times where you get frustrated, where people say, "Oh, all you do is get decisions." from my vantage point, it looks like you're always trying to advance and inflict damage and things like that. Do you feel like you have been, kind of misunderstood or unfairly, characterized as someone who doesn't go for that?
I think a little bit, it's like you never want to have that label as like lay and pray.
Right.
Like I definitely feel like I really, try to inflict damage whenever I fight, but it's just hard because I think a lot of people know that they're potentially going to be in that position with me, and they don't want to open up. They want to neutralize. They want to like hold on. They want to grab my arm. So it's like you often see me in my fights, like just like trying to like jerk my arms out of people's like grasp, and they're just trying to like not get hurt, which makes sense, and potentially get like stand-ups or whatever. And so it makes it hard because I definitely want to get those finishes, but that's why we keep working. That's why I keep studying and improving and figuring out how to deal with these things.
Perfect world for you. When would you like this title fight to happen if you had your say?
um I think in a perfect world, I think sometime within like September to December would be great.
In the September to December range?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cause you had a long, a long break in between your last fight in July and this one. You were supposed to fight in December, but it was never revealed why you had to withdraw from that fight. Are you able to say why?
Oh, yeah. So I never for sure accepted that fight. Like I had taken two fights back to back. I was a little bit like burnt out, and then it was a potential of title fight could be on the line. So just kind of like waiting it out and just fighting. Amanda Ribas, she's a great fighter and all, but fighting someone ranked so far, like not like quite a few spots below me, really didn't do anything to advance my career, but did a lot to advance hers. And
Mhm.
I was just trying to make the smart move. Obviously I'm not like afraid to fight her. I've been fighting the best of the best for over 11 years. So, it was just a matter of, like I'm not gonna rush myself into a fight when like, it has nothing to do with her, but it's just like I'm not ready to fight yet. I just needed a little bit more time off because, burnout in the sport is real. These camps are very intense mentally and physically. So I just kind of wanted to wait. And I told her, I was like, well, I'm willing to go, in like January. I was like, you can either wait for me or, fight someone else and we'll fight later. I was like, it's not that I don't want the fight. I was like, I just need a little bit more time.
Okay. Um, and so, like we talked about, your manager also, Brian Butler, also represents Rose. Do you have an inkling as to what Rose? We haven't really heard from her. She's not the, you know, call out or post something on social media type about fighting. Do you have an inkling as to what she prefers, whether it's a rematch against Zhang or a rematch against you? I would imagine she would want to right the wrong against you, but I'm not sure if you have an inkling.
Yeah, no, I know that I was told that she does definitely want the rematch. And I think she's like this, she's like, I think she said she figured Whaley out already.
Yeah.
She finished her, like she's done with that chapter, and she wants to fight the best. She said, she's like, this fight is gonna be a challenge. Like, I know she's really motivated to fight me, and I think it's we both have nothing but respect for each other, but I think it's a fight that we both really want.
Final thing, and perhaps most important, I saw you had some cookies after the big win. Of course, you are known as the Cookie Monster. What kind of cookies did we have? Like, how are the cookies these days? Outside the Apex, Las Vegas. I mean, can we get good quality stuff, or is it kind of run of the mill stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many options. We went to my teammate Alex Perez got these crumble cookies, and they were like so big that it's like eating a cake.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
yeah, they're so good. I had like a German chocolate cake cookie and like chocolate chip and like a fruity pebbles one. Like,
Yes.
yeah, it was so good.
What is, I feel like I've asked you this throughout, your time, my time covering you, but number one on the pound for pound cookie list for you is what?
Double chocolate chip, like softer ones. Like those are
Yeah.
my favorite. Girl Scout cookie favorite, Samoas. Those are the
Okay.
best.
All right. And now you're off to Africa for a vacation.
Yes, I am going to Botswana to do a safari, and then
Wow.
I will be going to Victoria Falls to do like whitewater rafting and bungee jumping and, just a bunch of cool stuff.
You don't hear a lot of people doing this right now. I mean, hopefully things are getting better all over the world, but you don't hear a lot of adventures being planned. So kudos to you on doing that. And hopefully it wasn't too stressful putting it all together in the midst of preparing for a fight.
Oh my gosh. Like I like got everything done. I did all my research and I was like, I'm not touching this again until after my fight. Hopefully everything's like all in line. And yeah, I'm really excited to go. I know things might be like a little bit like, more difficult, but I was like, dude, there's no time like the present. Like if it's open, I'm going to take the opportunity and just go have an amazing time. It's just like with the UFC, when they opened up, I know it was like, it's, kind of scary, but it's just like, whatever, just do it,
Respect. I love it. Well, I hope you get what you deserve. I hope you get that title shot. It would be a great story of a rematch of a fight that's almost 7 years in the making. And the first fight was very memorable and historic. And I think, for whatever it's worth, I think you have done more than enough. So you could take that message to the UFC brass and let them know that I said that. And I'm sure it will help you greatly, Carla. So congratulations on the big win,
so much.
the winning streak, and enjoy your time in Africa.
Thank you. I will. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.